All right, another spark and another build. The guild table is open. Welcome to Tools and Titans.
Today we're talking about the very soul of the game, the fundamental identities that define every card, every strategy, and every conflict in the world of Heroria.
We're talking about factions. And in this game, a faction is so much more than a color or a class. It's an ideology, a way of life, a reason to build, or a reason to break.
If you've ever wondered what separates a Titan from a Rustborn, or a Preservant from a Primordial, you're in the right place. This isn't just about choosing a team, it's about choosing your entire philosophy.
But before we dive into that deep lore, let's cover the absolute basics. For anyone new joining us, you might be wondering what a single turn even looks like.
It's simpler than you think, and it's the engine that drives every single faction we're about to discuss. It's the heartbeat of every match.
Toolin'. So how do you play Tools and Titans?
Easy. Draw your cards,
Charge your energy,
build your field,
act with your powers,
clash with your Titans.
end your turn. 6 steps, 1 epic battle. Okay, with that core loop in mind, let's get into the 6 pillars. B. What exactly is a faction in Tools and Titans?
Think of them as foundational identities. They govern a Titan's lore, their deck-building rules, their unique mechanics, and their entire narrative purpose. Every single playable character belongs to one of 6 factions.
So it's the game's core architecture. It's not just flavor, it's the blueprint.
Precisely. It determines what zones on the board matter to you, what cards you're even allowed to put in your deck, and ultimately how you achieve victory. Let's start with the first and most iconic faction, the Titans.
The builders, the creators, the masters of tradecraft themselves. Titans like Valara, the storm-wielding electrician, or Masonics, the defensive stonemason.
That's them. Their symbol is the hammer, representing divine labor and precision. The Titans are the architects and engineers of Heroria. Their philosophy is straightforward. The world must be built.
So their gameplay is all about building things, creating engines on the board?
Exactly. Their core mechanics are cast cards. These are powerful, one-time abilities that require careful setup. For example, a cast card might grant all of your structure cards a defensive bonus for the rest of the game. It's a permanent upgrade to your board.
So you're not just playing cards, you're building a synergistic machine. The goal is to create a state where your board flows and functions perfectly. A balanced, combo control playstyle.
You're constructing a legacy on the table, but creation always casts a shadow.
And that shadow is the second faction, the Rustborn. These are corrupted titans, twisted by an overuse of the world's energy, the weave. This is where Valara becomes the chaotic Chiovolt.
They now wield entropy, sabotage, and what the designers call fail-forward mechanics. Their philosophy is the polar opposite of the Titans. Everything must collapse to evolve.
Fail forward? You mean they benefit from their own destruction?
Precisely. Where Titans use stable cast cards, the Rustborn use volatile Scorch cards. A Scorch card might destroy one of your opponent's tools, but the blowback could force you to discard a card too. However, another Rustborn card might have an ability that says, whenever you discard a card, deal 1 damage to your opponent.
So you turn your own losses into weapons. That's the fail-forward loop. It creates a chaotic, aggressive, and disruptive playstyle.
They want to tear down the perfect engines the Titans build. They thrive on mechanics like Rust Shock, which damages everything on the board. And the Red Mesh, a state of play where rules become inverted and unstable. They see decay not as an end, but as a necessary, violent transformation.
And that decay can get even more literal. That brings us to the third faction. And these aren't even Titans anymore. What are the Corrot?
The Corrot is what happens when the Rustborn's corruption spawns new life. They are monsters forged from the dangerous, horrifying aspects of a trade. They are trade horror manifest.
Give me an example.
Imagine a Titan who was a master of high-altitude welding. The Corrot born from that trade might be a creature made of molten slag and broken scaffolding that can melt enemy structures or pull flying units out of the sky. They are anti-trade monsters, forged in a place called the Crucible, designed to undo the Titan's work.
So in the game, they're mostly PvE threats? Like bosses in a campaign mode?
Primarily, yes. They are designed with unique boss scaling for solo and co-op play. But in multiplayer, they are pure sabotage. Their mechanics revolve around monster summoning and recursion that triggers from the destruction caused by Scorch cards. They are monstrosity and aggression, designed to make the board collapse.
Okay, that's a lot to take in. Builders, destroyers, and monsters. But no matter which you play, the core of the game remains the same. The engine keeps turning.
Every Titan turn, draw, charge, building, act, clash, end, 6 steps, infinite ways to forge your victory.
All right, so we have this central conflict of creation versus decay. But the world of Heroria is more complex than that. There must be a force pushing back against all this chaos.
There is. The fourth faction, the Preservents. These are the anti-entropy beings. Some were Titans, some are something else entirely. Their goal is to delay decay, seal away corrupting power, and protect the world from the overuse of the weave. They are the guardians of balance.
So their mechanics must be defensive, stall, and control.
Entirely. They use seal mechanics to lock down cards and zones. A Preservant might play a card that says, "Seal the opponent's discard pile." For 3 turns, nothing can be brought back from it. This completely neutralizes a Rustborn recursion strategy.
They have immunity to Scorch and Rust Shock?
Many of them do. They are designed to deny progression. Their philosophy isn't build or destroy, it's contain. Their goal is to stall the game until their own, often difficult, win condition is met. They seek to protect the weave from overuse, a principle embodied by the legendary group known as the Verdant Refrain.
So from the Guardians of Balance, we move to the forces that existed before balance was even a concept. The 5th faction, the Primordials.
That's because they are. The Primordials are the mythic proto-forces from which all other factions emerged. They are abstract entities representing fundamental truths. The game's lore speaks of Thermodra, the embodiment of heat, Chronarch, the master of time, and Obscuron, the principle of darkness.
How do you even translate that into gameplay? That sounds impossible.
By breaking the rules of the game itself, their mechanics involve phase warping and paradox triggers. A Primordial of Time, like Chronarch, might have an ability that lets you skip your opponent's act phase once per game. A Primordial of Heat, like Thermodra, could change the energy cost of all cards in play.
So you're not just playing the game. You're playing with the game's code. They are the ultimate wild card.
And that brings us to our 6th and final faction, perhaps the most enigmatic of all, the Mythborn.
Ghosts of memory. Dreamborn concepts. This sounds less like a faction and more like a folktale.
And that's their identity. The Mythborn are not from the world, but from the memory of it. They are fragmented echoes, avatars of stories that were never told, or paths that were never taken. Their mechanics are as slippery as they sound.
Illusions and recursion?
Exactly. They use echo forms, which are ethereal, temporary copies of other cards. An echo form might copy a powerful Titan from your discard pile, but it's returned to the void at the end of the turn. It's a ghostly echo of power. They also use hidden tasks, objectives your opponent can't see until they're suddenly triggered.
A surprise win condition. Their playstyle sounds like trickery, disruption, and delayed power surges that come out of nowhere.
They are masters of misdirection and psychological warfare. Fighting a Mythborn player means you can never fully trust what you see on the board.
So there they are, the 6 pillars. How does this grand design actually shape the moment-to-moment gameplay?
It's the absolute foundation. Let's talk deck building. The faction locking is crucial. A Titan player building a deck knows they will have access to powerful structures and cast cards. They also know they won't have to worry about managing self-damaging Scorch effects. This creates clear, defined archetypes.
And that changes how you approach a match. If you're playing as a Preservant against a Rustborn, you know your primary goal is to weather the storm of their early aggression and seal their key recursion pieces. Your strategy is predefined by the faction matchup.
Then there's zone interaction. The board has specific zones, like the weave field where energy is stored, and the hazard tracker which logs disruptive effects. A Rustborn player wants to fill the hazard tracker. It empowers their cards. A Preservant player might spend their entire turn trying to clear it. The same zone becomes a resource for one faction and a threat for another.
And it all culminates in how you win. You mentioned ascension paths.
They are completely different. A Tool Titan typically ascends by achieving a balance of their structure points, ST, and charge points, CP, while also completing a set number of tasks. It's a path of balance and achievement. A Rustborn might have an alternate win condition, like successfully triggering 3 powerful Scorch effects or dealing a certain amount of self-inflicted damage. It's a path of controlled chaos.
And a Primordial?
A Primordial might win by creating a specific meta-paradox, like having cards in 4 different zones simultaneously, breaking the normal flow of the game. Each faction's victory is a reflection of its philosophy.
It also provides an incredible framework for the game's story. These aren't just abstract teams, they are players in a grand, unfolding narrative.
Exactly. The game's lore is built around faction conflicts. There was the Rustborn War, the catastrophic first conflict between the original Titans and the newly corrupted Rustborn. There was the Verdant Refrain, a historical event where the first Preservants worked to heal the damage from that war. And then came the Echo Fall, when the Primordials first awoke, changing the rules of reality itself.
So factions aren't just a game mechanic. They are the political parties, the nations, the core drivers of the entire history of this world. They provide a foundation for endless expansion.
The designers can release a new Titan, and we instantly understand its place in the world. They can create a campaign zone themed around the Corrot, and players know to expect environmental hazards and monster ambushes. It's elegant, modular design.
It's a massive strategic ecosystem. But no matter how deep it gets, it all comes back to what you do on your turn.
In every match of Tools and Titans, your tradecraft unfolds in 6 simple moves:
Draw,
charge,
building,
act,
clash,
end. Simplicity for the novice.
mastery for the Titan.